What's up, basketball fans? Welcome back to the Wildcat Wire. I'm here with Nate Thomas, and we're talking about the Sweet 16, the Elite Eight. Kind of a pretty intriguing couple first rounds to start off this year in March Madness, Nate.
Yeah, Jake, it's been... Well, I think it all started with Selection Sunday. Everyone was kind of, intrigued. Didn't quite know what the committee was thinking about with some of the seeding. I think all the right teams got in. We'll say that. There's no arguing about all the bubble teams. But I think in terms of seeding-wise, it was a little messed up in some places. But, this first weekend, I don't even know what to say. Because he had some really good games. But if you look at Saturday was terrible. It was absolutely awful if you're a basketball fan. Like a neutral fan just sitting there watching all those games. It's kind of bad. Sunday was a little bit better because you had some more interesting games. But, Thursday, Friday were, I think, both really good days for college basketball.
Yeah, they're both pretty good. Let's kind of start out with Thursday. I would say that Thursday didn't have the same amount of upsets as we saw on Friday.
Thursday was a little bit weaker. I think it's just everything this year. We kind of knew you had a tier of average teams and a tier of good teams. We really saw that separation on, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday when all these teams, came out that we thought everyone knew would win and won. So, when you look at Thursday, Michigan State almost got upset. That was a pretty interesting game. Belmont, Maryland was pretty good. You had some interesting games out there, and I think it made for a good first day.
Like New Mexico State almost beat Auburn.
Oh, that was almost a catastrophe, and it's kind of a meme now to look back, and I feel so bad for the New Mexico State players, but they had a good chance to win that game. They didn't.
Well, yeah, New Mexico State had a easy layup that they could have just put up and in to go into overtime, and they had all the momentum going into overtime. Instead, they passed out for three. The three-point shooter gets fouled. He makes one of the three free throws. They're down by one, and then they get a wide-open three on the inbound and completely airball it. It's kind of a bad ending. You had three chances to win that game.
What a blown opportunity for them. But, I think when you look at Thursday, Friday, the interesting stat of this year, 3 of the 4 12 seeds won in the first round. Mm-hmm. The only one was obviously New Mexico State against Auburn, which New Mexico State was in the perfect opportunity, and they had the chance to win. So, I think that obviously made for good. You still had some other interesting games from the weekend. Gardner-Webb stuck with Virginia for quite a while. UC Irvine knocked off Kansas State. You had some good games like that, but nothing really stuck out to me. You didn't have an R.J. Hunter buzzer beater from deep beyond the 3-point line or crazy 16-over-1 madness.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Gardner-Webb. Gardner-Webb and Iona, and both those 16 seeds gave their 1 seeds a run for their money. But
North Dakota State did for quite a while.
Yeah, North Dakota State too. They were down by 4, but Iona and Gardner-Webb both were leading at halftime, but just weren't able to kind of pull it off. I thought Gardner-Webb had a really good chance. Was up by 14 in the first half, 30-16, and just wasn't able to really do anything with it because I think Virginia's defense started picking up, and we really saw Virginia at their full kind of potential the way they kind of played against Oklahoma. Really able to kind of stop them a bit after Oklahoma blew out Ole Miss, which was kind of shocking I would say to some people. And then, North Carolina, they were able to kind of easily get past Washington after a tough matchup with Iona. But let's kind of talk about what people were thinking before. People were thinking that the Murray State-Marquette game was going to be one of the best first-round games you've ever had. And
What the complete opposite
Yeah.
that was. I mean, I was really looking forward to that game, too. I was looking forward to seeing Marcus Howard versus John Morant. That's what everybody wanted to see. You know, you have two of the best point guards in the country going up against each other, and then Marcus Howard and Marquette kind of stuck around the first half, but I was really impressed by how Murray State's kind of reserved, like their supporting cast played. Like, you know, they had Ja didn't do everything for that team. I mean, he had 15 shots, but it's easy to get like what do you have, 16 assists when all your teammates are making shots, when all your teammates are playing well. I mean, Ja obviously made a lot of those. He created all those opportunities for them to score, but I mean, someone's got to be on the end to score those too. I thought Murray State's cast was really good in that game, and Marquette's cast around Marcus Howard wasn't that great because Howard still put up 30 points in that game. I mean, it should be good enough to win.
Yeah. But then Murray State kind of dropped an egg, I would say, the next game against Florida State.
I will say this now. I have Florida State in my Final Four. I think Florida State is a really good team. I didn't think that they would do that to Murray State, though.
Mm-hmm.
I thought they may maybe make it a little interesting, but I think the thing that, I mean, everyone knew, like you have to do is, make Ja a scorer. Don't let him facilitate the ball. And Florida State made him just that. He had 5 assists that game. He still had 28 points, but it's like he still took, like, almost 20 shots.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah. I mean, I can kind of see, like, what you mean, but, I mean, I think definitely, like you said, Sunday, it was kind of exciting, but honestly, the weekend wasn't really as good as Thursday and Friday, but there's a lot of good upsets, and then probably, obviously, the most intriguing team, that is a Cinderella. Let's kind of talk about Oregon.
Quote-unquote Cinderella. They won their last 10 games. Peyton Pritchard said it best in the post-game interview after they beat UC Irvine to clinch their spot in the Sweet 16. We weren't even supposed to make the NIT, and we came out and won our last 10 games and made the tournament.
Mm-hmm.
I think Oregon is what you would call a dirty bid stealer because they were. They didn't. I don't think that they deserved to make the tournament, but
obviously I would say they kind of deserve it now.
They do now because they won 10 in a row. They're playing on fire right now.
And they're in the Sweet 16.
Yeah. But, I mean, going into the tournament, no. I mean, I had them in my Sweet 16 because I knew that they'd have some momentum coming into it. And I think they got kind of lucky with the matchup against a way overrated 5 seed in Wisconsin and then a game against UC Irvine. So they had the opportunities to, I mean, they kind of had an easier route than a lot of teams would, usually.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they did. But it was kind of competitive, but they still were able to end up blowing them out at the end. So both teams. So they pretty much have been able to show a lot of, resilience and be able to get kind of past him. So here we kind of are at the Sweet 16. I thought maybe we could kind of talk about and kind of give some predictions we think for the Sweet 16 Elite 8 this next weekend, kind of who he thinks going to get into the Final Four. So let's start off with the first matchup here on Thursday with a team that you said was in your Final Four, Florida State and Gonzaga.
I'm really looking forward to this game. I think Gonzaga is a good team. I don't know if they're the best 1 seed out of the bunch, but I still think that they're a good team. Brandon Clark dropped, I think, 36 points. And their round of 32 matchup against Baylor, he had 36, 8 rebounds, and 5 blocks. I think he's like the first person since Shaquille O'Neal to have 35 and 5 blocks in a game, and he was only the third person to do it. The other was David Robinson. So he had an outstanding performance. This Gonzaga team is still really good. When you think about it, they have Perkins, they have Rui Hachimura, Zach Norvell, I think his name is, Norvell. Mm-hmm. He's a pretty good player, too. I think Gonzaga's a good team, but I really think Florida State is coming in with everything with them right now because, they made it to the ACC championship game against Duke. They stuck around for quite a while in that game. I will say Duke played a pretty incredible game in that one.
Gonzaga did beat Duke earlier in the year. I mean, that's still something to, remember.
Yeah, But, I mean, I think the Florida State is looking really good right now. You know, Capingale is playing good. You have... The one thing that you'll say about Florida State, they have height, they can play good defense, and they can knock down shots. That's what you want in March.
Mm-hmm.
They can knock down threes, and you saw it against Murray State when they dropped, 91 points or something in that game.
Mm-hmm.
It was pretty incredible. So, I mean, if they can replicate that performance against Gonzaga, they're going to be in the Elite Eight. There's no way Gonzaga can stop a team like that.
Well, yep. So Gonzaga's 7.5-point favorite in that game. That game's going to be on CBS at 6 p.m.
I'll take Florida State against a spread of 7.5, but I think that they still have a good opportunity to win.
Mm-hmm. So, let's kind of switch on to Purdue and Tennessee. Definitely an exciting matchup. You know, Tennessee kind of gave a 25-point lead against Iowa, almost threw that one away, had a tough game against Colgate. So they've really fought their way here. And Purdue, I mean, I would say that an easy route. They've just been impressive against a good team, good team in Villanova, beating them by almost 30, and Carson Edwards scoring 42. And kind of what are you thinking about in Purdue, Tennessee? I think that this could be a really good matchup.
I still think I favor Tennessee to come out of this one, but Purdue is still really good. They played one heck of a game against Villanova. They shot the lights out, and they played really good defense. Carson Edwards was outstanding, dropping 42, and I believe he went 9 of 12 from 3, or 12 of some ridiculous number. They played so good, and I was so surprised about it because I thought Villanova could go in there and, beat Purdue, but obviously that did not happen. As for Tennessee, that Iowa game was a little nerve-wracking because, you had Admiral Schofield, your top scorer, on the bench for most of the second half. Grant Williams is still a really good player for them. Bone is a good player. This Tennessee is still pretty good, but I don't know how far they can really go, especially against those two games you had with Colgate and Iowa.
Mm-hmm. Alrighty. Let's kind of switch over to Texas Tech and Michigan. I think this is definitely going to be a very exciting game. Texas Tech, they've really been kind of impressive to me the way that they're able to beat down on Buffalo, a team that a lot of people thought would be kind of like a Cinderella, kind of make a run. And Texas Tech dominated them. Michigan, too, they dominated. I would say they dominated that Florida game, winning 64-49. So, for me personally, I think that this is going to be a game that I think Texas Tech might get out of, but what are kind of your thoughts on it?
I don't know what to say about this game. I thought Buffalo would beat Texas Tech. Obviously, that didn't happen. Credit Texas Tech, man. They're a pretty darn good team. They play great defense, and they score the ball a lot. Michigan is a little bit the same way, except their defense isn't as good, but their offense is a little bit better. So, I don't know. I think Texas Tech will probably win this game just because of their ability to play defense and score still. But I really think that, that one's going to go all the way down to the wire.
Mm-hmm.
I really don't know if you can even say that there's a favorite to win that game.
Mm-hmm. Alrighty, kind of switching on to Oregon and Virginia. Now, me personally, I think this is going to be a really good basketball game. Oregon's able to spread the floor, but I don't know if that's going to be enough to beat Virginia. With Virginia's defense, they're going to catch on to kind of what Oregon's doing. Oregon, they're on a run right now, but you still got to remember, they're still a 12 seed. They still had a lot of struggles during the year, and Virginia's still one of the best teams in the nation, and I think Virginia will kind of be able to figure out Oregon, but I think it might be a close game until close to the end.
Yeah, Oregon, I think the thing about Oregon is their defense is underrated. They're going to block a lot of shots. Everyone just thinks of Oregon as, they're going to shoot well, they're going to play some good offense, but I think their defense is probably the trait that carries them the most. They shot the ball really good against UC Irvine. They still played really good against Wisconsin on the offensive side, but I don't know. I think Virginia's defense will do just enough to get them through to the next round, but Oregon's going to give them a run for their money.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're definitely going to. But let's switch over to Friday. And we're going to start off with a matchup that is a little nerve-wracking for myself, and it's going to be a really good game, I think. North Carolina and Auburn. Auburn's on fire right now. North Carolina kind of been able to string some wins, not able to win the ACC, but still getting number 1 seed. How are you kind of looking at this Auburn-North Carolina game?
One word, shootout. These teams are going to play amazing offense. If you didn't watch Auburn against Kansas on Saturday night, what a performance that was. Their 2 guys in the backcourt dropped like 42 combined points. Like, it was insane. Like, Auburn played so well. They shot the ball really good, and they turned Kansas over when they needed to. You don't have to play great defense, but you can play enough defense to just get you by, create those transition opportunities, and that's what Auburn did. Obviously, North Carolina is a really good rebounding team. We saw that against Washington. They had how many second chance opportunities? I know they didn't score on a lot of those, so that might be something that they want to improve on, but they can have a heyday on the boards against Auburn, a little bit more of a smaller, faster-paced team. But if you have not seen the Auburn Tigers play yet, I really recommend you do on Friday evening, I should say. What time's that game?
6:29.
Yeah, so a 6:30 game is a really good time to, sit down, watch some Auburn against North Carolina, because this could be offense heavy, and it could be, in the 80s and 90s.
Yeah, it definitely could be. I mean, Auburn, they were able to catch fire against Kansas. We'll see if they can bring that momentum in, or will Auburn play like the team how they kind of played against New Mexico State, kind of not really like the same kind of team. So we'll have to see what kind of Auburn comes out. And then Michigan State, LSU. Me personally, I don't even know if this is really going to be a great game. I think Michigan State can easily blow out this LSU team. I know LSU's caught fire here, but, I mean, Maryland was on the struggling end, and then LSU kind of struggled against Yale. So, I don't know. Me personally, I think this has the potential to be a blowout.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I think Michigan State is obviously the way better team in this situation. LSU had their struggles in their first 2 games, and if it wasn't for Yale shooting 20-something% from 3, they would have won that game. The Bulldogs had such a good opportunity to win that game, but they just didn't shoot well enough. They should have beat LSU.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if LSU will make it out of this game, especially the way Michigan State played against Minnesota. They were absolutely dominant. They had double-digit lead pretty much from the start. So we'll see how Michigan State plays. But if they come out playing on both ends of the floor like they usually do, they're probably just going to easily move on to the next game. But obviously can't overlook it when you're in March.
Yeah. But now we kind of got a ACC matchup here in the Sweet 16. Duke and Virginia Tech. Duke I would say they kind of struggled a bit against Central Florida. Central Florida had the game in the bag. Me personally, I thought that UCF should have won that game, but Duke was able to prevail, and now we're kind of sitting here. Virginia Tech, against St. Louis, they pretty much dominated that game. They were up by 30 at one point, only won by 14, and then their last game, Liberty really made it interesting against the Hokies.
Yeah, Liberty put together quite the game. They shoot the ball pretty well, but this Virginia Tech Duke game, Virginia Tech beat Duke earlier this year.
77-72.
Obviously, everyone's gonna start saying, it's gonna be different this time because Duke didn't have Zion in that game. But if you look at it, Virginia Tech didn't have Blackshear in that game, I don't think, and that's their best player. So I think this is gonna make for a pretty interesting matchup. But Duke's gonna get another run for their money in this one. That UCF game is still a little sour in my mouth because I don't like Duke that much. So I'm agreeing with you. There was some late game controversy with the officials, but UCF had all the opportunities in the world to win that game. They just couldn't quite do it. Duke should feel really lucky that they're still in this tournament.
Mm-hmm. And we're going to switch to the night game, and I think this is going to be a really good game. This is a really intriguing matchup. Kind of look at Houston, a team back in like the 90s and 80s, used to be, I would say, quote-unquote, a basketball powerhouse, always making it. Had Hakeem Olajuwon. And now facing Kentucky, a modern-day kind of powerhouse. And I think this is going to be a really good game, Nate. Kentucky and Houston. This game is going to go down to the wire.
I don't even know if you can say it's going to go down to the wire. I think without PJ Washington, this Kentucky team lacks a lot on the offensive side and the defensive side as well. Because you don't have a good rebounder, and you don't have someone that can score inside. Houston has length, and they play really good defense. And I think the Cougars have a really good opportunity to almost blow out this Kentucky team. Because Kentucky didn't have a great weekend. You know, if it wasn't for Fletcher Maggie to shoot 0 for 12 from 3, Wofford could have easily beaten Kentucky. So I think Kentucky should feel lucky that they're still even at this point without, PJ. But I think Houston can really put the pedal to the metal against this Wildcat team.
Yeah, I've kind of think about that with Kentucky kind of being kind of shorthanded a bit. Like if Houston can catch fire, this 33-3 team, they could easily blow out the Wildcats.
Yeah, and I mean Kentucky struggled against good defenses this season. And I mean Houston is one of the best defenses you'll ever see. Like I'm pretty sure they're in like the top 15 in the country in defensive efficiency. So we'll see how it goes for them.
Yeah, we will. So let's obviously we don't have the match for the Elite Eight yet, but who would you probably, as of now, put in your Final Four and why?
I think I'm going to go with Duke, Florida State, I think I'm still going to stick with Tennessee, and then I'm going to go with North Carolina. Mainly because I think North Carolina is going to scrape just enough to get by. I still think Tennessee's a good team, even though Purdue's still top notch. And then Duke is Duke. All you have to say is Zion, Cam, and RJ Barrett. And then Florida State mainly because, that game against Murray State just showed enough that they can probably get through this, and I think they're an underrated team. They can beat Gonzaga and Texas Tech or Michigan down there. But I still think Texas Tech could get to the Final Four.
Yeah, I
think they're a little underrated.
Yeah. In my Final Four, my bracket, I had Virginia, North Carolina, Duke, and Michigan. But kind of looking at it now, I definitely think that Texas Tech team can beat Michigan and then go on and play Gonzaga or Florida State in the Elite Eight. That they're going to be a tough team to play with. And I think, me personally, Texas Tech, if Gonzaga beats Florida State, I think Texas Tech has a better chance of beating Gonzaga than they do Florida State.
Yeah, definitely. I think Florida State is a wild card team, mainly because you don't know what you're going to get out of them. Are they going to shoot the ball well or are they not? Because if they're not going to shoot the ball well like they did in the ACC championship against Duke, they're not going to win that game. But if they shoot the ball well like they have in the tournament so far, they're going to be tough to beat.
Yeah, but this Sweet 16 is looking like it's going to be a fun one. A lot of games. Hopefully we'll get down the wire, not a bunch of blowouts and stuff. So there's a lot to look forward to going into the Final Four here, Nate.
US Bank Stadium is going to be home for, maybe there's still all 4 1 seeds left. Maybe that'll happen for the first time in who knows how long. And we might get some interesting games when you get there.
All right. Well, that's going to do it for us here on the Wildcat Wire. I'm Jake Janicek.
I'm Nate Thomas. We'll see you guys after the Elite Eight.